Hey, assalamu alaikum. This is Brandon Gilliam. I'm representing POBUMS Society, and I'm here with Dr. Amanda Goldman. And today we're going to have a little discussion on mental health. Amanda, please tell the people who you are and what you do.
I am Amanda Goldman, and I am a PhD LCPC, which means I'm a counselor, and I also have a doctorate in psychology, and I have a private practice across the street from where we are sitting in 60505.
So how long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing for 22 years. If you start when I got my master's degree and started seeing clients at that level, and then I continued on and got 2 counseling licenses, and then I got my doctorate, and here I am.
Now your doctorate is in
Psychology.
Psychology.
Yeah, it's a doctor of philosophy in psychology.
Okay, so you're a psychologist.
So I'm a doctor of philosophy and psychology. I'm not a clinical psychologist.
Okay.
There's a difference.
Okay.
So I have to be
Explain
really careful. So one is a research degree.
Okay.
Mine is a research degree.
Okay.
So I did lots and lots and lots of research specifically on language and schizophrenia.
Okay.
And a clinical psychologist is more a practical degree. A lot of seat time. Even though I have tons of seat time, I did want to do that research because schizophrenia is really important to me. Yeah.
So when did you first start going into business for yourself, saying this is what you want to do?
I started going into business. I knew what I wanted to do when I was 11.
Okay.
I'm about to be 50. I mentioned that earlier with the lighting. And I went into business for myself as an independent practitioner in 2004 when I got licensed. Okay. And I was in the all 4 Aurora school districts through CIS for 13 years.
So how was that? Explain that.
Great. I loved it. CI Communities in Schools is an organization that places counselors in schools because a lot of times it's hard for kids to get services outside of schools. And so I went into schools in District 308, 204, 131, and 129 for years.
Okay.
Yeah, and then when I got my doctorate, I went to a group practice very, very briefly and realized I could do what they were doing all by myself. And so I looked out my front door and saw what was for rent and rented an office across the street.
So how long have you been in that office, like with your business?
9 years. 9 years. Yeah, 9 years.
All right. Now, explain to the people the services that you provide for the community.
Yeah, we provide counseling. For kids, adults, families, couples, groups, and also case management, which is everything outside of counseling that people need, like helping people apply for disability, helping people get food stamps, helping people get insurance, set up transportation for appointments, connecting people with food resources, clothing resources, pretty much anything that people need going into the schools, again, for IEP meetings, so just whatever else people need besides counseling.
Now, I want to go back. You said counseling. What type of counseling do you provide? Let's say I had a problem. Let's say a relative died and I needed counseling. Would that be what you do? Or
we don't do grief counseling as a specific modality, but obviously grief is something that we deal with. And that's my husband's phone. You got it?
It's all right.
That's so real.
This is real live, son. It's live, hot. You got phones going off and everything in here. It's the apocalypse. No, I'm joking. All right.
You got it.
Go back to your counseling.
Yeah. So I'm a client-centered counselor by orientation, but we work with everyone. We don't work with sex offenders. We work with kids. Those are kind of mutually exclusive. But otherwise, we really don't turn anybody away. And we're kind of a general practice because there aren't a lot of other resources in the neighborhood. So
now explain the difference between Aunt Martha and what they do and what you do.
Thank you for asking. That's on my list.
Like the same or is
It's
different? Okay.
It's different. Aunt Martha's is a community. It's a community health center, and it includes some mental health. I don't know if they have counselors right now. They might. They have a couple psychiatrists, or at least one. And I'm a private practice.
Okay.
So it's different.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how does that play in with insurance and Medicaid and Medicare and all that stuff?
So it's a very different. I hear counselors say all the time, well, I can't take Medicaid because it doesn't pay well. And it's true that in a community mental health center, it doesn't pay well because that's a DHS contract, Department of Human Services. In a private practice, it's totally different. So you bill Medicaid just the same way that you would bill any other insurance.
Oh, okay.
And they pay you, but it's really nice with Medicaid because there's no cost to the client. They don't have a copay, they don't have co-insurance, they don't have a deductible. So it's just all, it's very easy. I think everyone should do it.
Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
With your practice, what's the word I'm trying to say? How many of you are out here up in the community, up on the east side or the west side of Aurora?
On the east side, I have a list because I also asked myself the same question because I've always said, oh well, we're the only ones sort of in 60505, and it's not entirely true. So I have a list here of a dozen counselors in 60505. Unfortunately, none of them accept Medicaid.
Oh, for real?
So we're still alone in that sense. Not that there are definitely some great community mental health centers across the river and in other parts of town. But as far as 60505 is concerned, which is 81,000 people, we're kind of alone. Kind of alone, yeah.
Now, on any given day, what is your caseload?
On a given day, the caseload for the practice, we have upwards of 600 active cases, and most private practices carry something like 25.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Thank you for identifying that as crazy. So what I don't work every day. I'm especially this year really trying to take a couple days off every week. But when I do work, I work easily 14, 15-hour day.
Okay.
Because of that, and so does everybody else at my office.
So how many people do you see in a day?
I can see 13, 14 people back to back. It's not recommended to see more than 6, but again,
right.
The ideal sort of model and reality are really, really different. Yeah.
That is a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot, and they're wonderful. The clients are wonderful, and I'm really blessed, but I feel that they should have more choices of where to go. It shouldn't be because there's no place else to go.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, so at your practice, how many other people are there to help with counseling and things like that?
We have 3. Now we have 3. One of our interns just graduated, and we have 3 licensed counselors. 2 are very part-time and they're only telehealth. And then we have 4 master's level interns and 3 bachelor's level externs who do the case management, and then a master's level intern who also does case management. So we have 12 people. We have support staff as well.
Okay.
Although right now we have like 4 because everybody's been quarantined.
Gotcha. Speaking about that, I want to ask you, since COVID is a hot topic, how has COVID affected the mental health of some of the people you see in?
It's been terrible. It has been terrible because a lot of our clients, I think in some practices, it's very customary to do telehealth, and it's just, oh yeah, I'll get on Zoom, or I have my home office and I can sort of have this private space and technology and internet and all these things. A lot of our clients are homeless. Okay. So we have a lot of clients who live outdoors.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And especially with my nonprofit, which is a whole different topic, but we share space right now because of COVID. So a lot of my clients, if they don't get seen in person, they don't get seen. It's very difficult. Hesed House has really been helpful lately, trying to let some of the guests use a computer or use somebody's phone. But also a lot of, personally, my clients struggle with things like schizophrenia, and they're very disoriented. So even saying like, hey, 1 o'clock, we're going to Zoom, people show up when they show up. They'll show up on a different day or a different time or multiple times in the week, and we take walk-ins. And so it's really not practical to do telehealth. And it's not the same either, because people come and they want a cup of coffee, and we have food at the office, and it's not the same. We know what kind of coffee everybody takes, and they look forward to that.
Gotcha. Now, since you and your staff see a lot of people, How do you and your staff deal with your own mental health to make sure you're up to par
Yeah.
with everything? Because like I know it's
he's
lot,
gonna say he's
like
rolling his eyes over.
I know it's a lot to deal with to hear everybody's issues and stuff like that, and to try to help them work through it. But like, how do you and your staff deal with your own mental health to try to stay afloat?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think that we do very well, but I require my interns to be in therapy for themselves. And I certainly have somebody that I talk to if I can get out there to talk to him. He's in Plainfield, but I'm just trying to be really strict with myself and keeping my hours regular. And again, for me, it's not the clients. Like I feel like I could listen to other people's problems all day because I know the difference. I know the difference between them and me, and I know what my role is. For me, it's the thing that stresses me is the situation that has created this crisis, because it is a man-made crisis. Okay. And that's the thing that keeps me up at night, is knowing that this is preventable.
Now, I want to ask, I don't know if you can like really get into the details. So, have there been success stories and some horror stories that kind of like break your heart? Because sometimes I notice a person can go to counseling, then they're doing better, then something happens, and
definitely, absolutely. I mean, I've had my share of clients who've completed suicide over the years. And there are success stories as well, definitely. I think especially with my clients who are homeless, it feels really good when we're able to help get them reconnected with their families or get them into someplace safe and warm. And those feel like wins, when somebody gets off the streets. If they want to get off the streets, like sometimes the streets are preferable to some of the situations that people have been in, given the options. But yeah, of course, I think counseling has like 15% of the influence on somebody's life is the estimate.
All right.
So which is small.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this, because I know with children and with the internet, bullying is a very big thing, cyberbullying and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you have cases like that where you have kids who get bullied up on the internet? And so how does that go? Because being naive, I would always just think if you're being bullied on the internet,
turn it off.
Yeah. Just turn it off.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just tell a kid, hey, just turn it off. But, for a kid that's being bullied on, I don't know, TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, so how does that go? So, like, do you see a lot of those, and how do you try to navigate, like, to try to help them out? It's
horrible. And I think even when they do turn it off, it's still happening, because they can turn it off, but all their friends are still on social media.
Gotcha.
And so they're still hearing it, and they're still, I have heard some terrible, terrible things, especially and I don't want to generalize, but every school culture is different. And I hear more in the more affluent school districts. And I don't know if it's because the kids have more opportunity or more access to technology, but there are schools where the boys are trading pictures of the girls, like playing cards, like for money. Like middle schoolers, are trading like naked pictures of the girls and like rating them, and like it's a whole market and a whole commodity, and the girls know about this. So even if they're not sort of involved in it, they're hearing about it. They know that they're being assigned like a rating and a number, and they're being, and I think the hardest part with that isn't even the kids as much as getting the parents to take it seriously. I think because there is that disconnect, and they're sort of like, I tell them to turn off their phone or whatever. I don't think they realize what the kids are going through or how predatory it is, So yeah, it's definitely a problem. And it's a problem for the young kids, not just like the teenagers who think, oh, well, when they get in high school, then we have to start worrying about that. But it's, any kid with a phone is at risk.
I see.
Yeah.
Earlier you said that you offer family counseling?
I personally don't.
No,
but we do.
So when there is a family that has issues
Yeah.
and you get them all in the same room, how is that dynamic, and
That's horrifying.
does it go okay, or is it like a family feud in there? Start throwing chairs or Jerry Springer or something like
Sometimes
that?
it's just keeping the chairs on the ground. Yeah, I don't. I have a couple of counselors and a couple of interns who are just amazing with families, and they love that, and they can really kind of navigate those dynamics. And I am not great at that. But I think it feels like every family has an identified patient. And so often we see the identified patient. It'll be like, oh, like everything's fine, but our kid is a mess. And it's always connected, right? Like it's always, a family issue. And so I think that's more the problem that I see is I'll get one person coming in and everybody kind of, I don't want to say like ganging up on them, but in a way sort of saying, well, I don't know why they have this problem. I don't, and the families aren't always realizing that, they are part of the problem, or that there are things they could do. And then if you sort of bring that to their attention, sometimes they quit. So you have to be super diplomatic, if you're like, hey, maybe you could change this at home, and they'll be like, well, we're going to talk to somebody else who's going to tell us what we want to hear. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I have another question.
Okay, good.
How does childhood trauma, if a person is a child, they had childhood trauma, but it has never been addressed, and now they're an adult, does that childhood trauma still affect them as an adult and how they interact with people in these situations?
Yeah, it depends. The thing with trauma, if it's never been addressed, then yes. Mm-hmm. Like if they've never had the opportunity to talk about it, I think the thing with trauma that people don't realize is it's not the experience itself, it's what happens afterwards. So you can have like two people who go through the exact same thing, and one of them, maybe is supported and given the opportunity to talk about it, and they're sort of kind of able to heal. Not that it's not an injury, but it's sort of an injury that they can heal from in a way. The thing that creates like PTSD is not talking about it.
Oh.
Yeah. And so when you do like trauma screening, you're asking the person, hey, have you had this experience, or other experiences that were traumatic? How much were you able to talk about it when it happened? Like that's the next question, and that's the thing that creates a disorder, not the thing itself that happened.
Because like I know in the Black community, we usually don't talk about our problems. We don't talk about our trauma, and like when I look back on how some of us grew up, we went through some traumatic shit. Yeah. But now you look back on it and like we just thought we were just kids going through stuff, but we look back on it and it was like, man, that was traumatic. For instance, if you're in a house and like the lights get turned off, or the water bill gets turned off, and like you don't have heat, and like you got to go to school and you got to take a shower, like that's traumatic for people. But as children, like we just think it's a part of growing up.
The heat's off again.
Yeah. But up in the Black community, it's like I noticed we do not talk about trauma at all. It's like it usually comes out in some type of violent form, or something happens and stuff like that. So I notice how sometimes we see a child or a youth. Well, like when we were youth, we'll see somebody go through stuff, or the family was kind of like, man, like the family's kind of messed up, and now he's an adult, and dude is really messed up. Yeah. But you can like look at his childhood and kind of
no, absolutely. Yeah.
And so like it was never discussed. You know what I mean? So it's like, wow.
Yeah, of course he's gonna be messed up. Like it has to go somewhere, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So Amanda.
Yes.
Dr. Amanda.
Oh my God.
What's your official title?
Dr. Goldman.
Dr. Goldman.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you would like to tell the people before we go?
I would like to. And thank you. So I talked about sort of the situation with providers in the neighborhood, which is a problem. We talked about community mental health versus private practice. I have a list. Okay. I also just wanted to, I guess, draw people's attention to what I think is resource hoarding. I think that's what has caused this crisis. Okay.
Break it down to us.
Break it down. So if you hear that there's a shortage of counselors, that's not true. If you map out the location of counselors, they're all clustered in certain areas. There's no shortage. There's an oversaturation in certain communities Naperville has something like 200 per square mile. So I want to say that. I don't know what people do with that knowledge, probably nothing, because it's not the first time I've said it, but I do want to say it sort of publicly, is that this is a very preventable issue. The fact that we have, a mental health crisis right now it's a man-made crisis. And, if every counselor in private practice would take even 1 or 2 Medicaid cases, we wouldn't have to take 600.
So you think that's the problem?
I think that's absolutely the problem.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. It's sort of, if you put all the grocery stores in a community that already has grocery stores,
right.
Who are you feeding?
Hmm.
So I wanted to say that. I said it differently in my supervision group with the students this morning. I think I used the word genocide. So I also wanted to talk about tokenism and versus representation. Because I think, you're saying people in the Black community maybe don't go to counseling or don't talk about things. No wonder. Mm-hmm. How many Black counselors do you know?
I know one.
Exactly. I know the same one that you know. So, there's a problem in our field with different populations not being represented. And I think the field itself is so biased and so whitewashed. I have a list here of Black and Hispanic psychological theorists. You're not going to find these in any textbook in any school, including schools full of Black and brown people. So I'm just handing it to you because I don't know what to do with it. So I'm saying, the whole field is biased, right? Okay. And so we're creating this class system, and we're creating this very whitewashed sort of product. And then we're saying, well, I don't know why Black people don't come see us. Would you? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't. So I just think that there are a lot of problems in our field, and we're trying to be part of the solution, but these are, I think the responsibility to solve some of these problems is on us. It's not the government, it's not, nobody is withholding funding or anything like that. It's people like myself, I think who need to step up. Yeah. Because I'm tired.
Anything else you would like to say?
I don't know. Did I forget anything?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Do people call in with questions?
Nah. I'm not that advanced. This is low budget environment shooting right here.
Is this what they call a podcast?
It kind of.
Thank you.
But if you have a question before we go, since we're on Facebook, you can type your question at the bottom and we could try to answer it for you.
Yeah, and I also want to say if anybody is, willing to contract with Medicaid, I can help them with that. It costs maybe $50 to get credentialed with Medicaid, and I wish everybody would do that.
Now tell the people the name of your practice, where it's located at, and the hours.
Oh yeah, okay. So we are East Aurora Counseling, because we are in East Aurora. And we are at 143 South Lincoln in East Aurora, which is on the corner of Lincoln and Clark, and we're open 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
7 days a week?
Yep. It is a lot.
That's a lot.
But here we are. So, yes. And I also have a nonprofit foundation, the Judah Robinson Foundation, which is for people who are homeless and struggling with chronic or severe mental illness like schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. So there's that, and that doesn't cost anybody anything at all. That's a nonprofit, so you don't have to have insurance or anything. All right.
Well, we appreciate you for taking the time to share this vital information with us. I'm here with Dr. Goldman from the East Aurora Counseling.
Across the street.
Right across the street. Any last words before we go?
No, thank you for listening. I hope it wasn't too boring.
Nah, it's cool. We really enjoyed it. So I want to thank y'all for tuning in. This is Brandon Gilliam, representing the POBUMS Society, and peace till next time. And there's a killer cat right here about to attack me.